Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to stand before you tonight and speak about something that touches every single one of us. Something that quietly shapes the quality of our lives, our work, our relationships, and even our sense of purpose. We gather here in a time of extraordinary advancement. In the United States, we pride ourselves on innovation, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of possibility. We build companies that reshape industries. We develop technologies that shrink continents into screens. We chase goals with passion and intensity. And yet, beneath this remarkable progress, many of us feel an undercurrent of restlessness. We are connected more than ever before, but often feel disconnected from ourselves. We are informed constantly, but struggle to focus deeply. We are busy all day, but sometimes lie awake at night wondering if we are truly fulfilled. We move fast, we achieve much, but we rarely pause. And perhaps the most important question we can ask ourselves tonight is this. In all of our striving, have we forgotten how to simply be? Our culture celebrates productivity, achievement, and momentum. From a young age, we are taught to compete, to excel, to push forward. And there is beauty in that drive. It has built cities, cured diseases, launched rockets, and inspired generations. But there is another dimension of greatness, one that does not come from acceleration, but from awareness. There is a power that does not shout, but steadies. A strength that does not rush, but roots. A clarity that does not overwhelm, but illuminates. That power is mindfulness. And when mindfulness is sustained, when presence meets purpose and attention meets challenge, it transforms into something extraordinary, flow. Tonight, I want to explore with you not just a concept, but a way of living, a way of working, a way of leading, a way of loving. Because mindfulness and flow are not abstract ideas reserved for monks, athletes, or artists. They are practical forces that can reshape how we approach our careers, our families, our communities, and our inner lives. This conversation is not about slowing down for the sake of slowing down. It is not about withdrawing from ambition. It is not about rejecting success. It is about redefining success. It is about asking, what if the key to peak performance is not more pressure, but deeper presence? What if fulfillment does not come from doing more, but from experiencing more of what we are already doing? What if the life we are chasing is found in the moments we usually rush past? Tonight, I invite you to consider a simple but transformative idea. Your attention is your life. Where you place it determines what you build. How you use it determines who you become. Whether you control it or it controls you determines the depth of your experience. So let us begin this journey together. Not as spectators, not as multitaskers, but as participants, fully here, fully present, ready to rediscover the power of mindfulness and the extraordinary state of flow that awaits on the other side of focused awareness. Tonight, I want to speak to you about two quiet forces that have the power to transform a noisy world: mindfulness and flow. We live in a country built on motion. From the railroads that stitch together the vastness of America to the code that now connects our digital lives, the American story is a story of action. We admire speed. We celebrate productivity. We honor achievement. But somewhere in our devotion to motion, many of us have lost something essential: presence. We are surrounded by constant notifications, relentless news cycles, and the unspoken pressure to always be improving, optimizing, producing. We scroll while we eat. We answer emails while we talk. We think about tomorrow while standing in today. And yet, beneath all the noise, there is a quieter truth. The greatest performance, the deepest joy, and the most meaningful success arise not from frantic activity, but from focused presence. That is where mindfulness begins. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is not a trend. It is not incense and silence and escape from the world. Mindfulness is the simple, radical act of paying attention, on purpose, in the present moment, without judgment. It is being fully here. When you drink your morning coffee and actually taste it. When you sit with a loved one and truly listen instead of preparing your reply. When you walk outside and notice the air on your skin. This may sound small, but in a distracted age, presence is revolutionary. Think about the wisdom traditions that have influenced American life. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of awareness, conscience, and intentional action. Writers like Henry David Thoreau withdrew to Walden Pond not to escape society, but to experience it more fully. Mindfulness is not withdrawal. It is engagement. It is choosing to inhabit your life instead of rushing through it. The cost of distraction. Let's be honest, we are exhausted. We are exhausted not only because we work hard, but because our attention is fractured. We check our phones hundreds of times a day. We multitask until nothing receives our full care. We live in a culture that often equates busyness with worth. But science tells us something profound. Attention is finite. Every time we divide it, we weaken it. And when attention weakens, so does meaning. Have you ever reached the end of a day and felt like you were busy every minute, yet accomplished nothing that truly mattered? That is the cost of unconscious living. Mindfulness invites us to reclaim our attention, the most precious resource we have. Because where attention goes, life follows. From mindfulness to flow. Now let's take this one step further. When sustained attention meets challenge, something extraordinary can happen. A state athletes describe as being in the zone. Artists call it inspiration. Musicians call it groove. Psychologists call it flow. Flow is that state in which time dissolves. You are fully immersed. Self-doubt disappears. Action and awareness merge. It is the basketball player who stops hearing the crowd and sees only the hoop. It is the coder who looks up from the screen and realizes 6 hours have passed. It is the teacher so absorbed in a lesson that the bell startles her. Flow is not passive relaxation. It is intense, energized focus. And here is the secret. Mindfulness is the doorway to flow. You cannot enter flow with a distracted mind. You cannot experience deep immersion if your attention is splintered across 5 apps and 3 anxieties. Mindfulness trains the muscle of attention. Flow is the reward of a strong mind. The American spirit and flow. The American spirit has always celebrated those who enter flow. When Michael Jordan took the final shot, he was not thinking about endorsements or headlines. He was present. When Serena Williams served match point, she was not replaying past mistakes. She was in the moment. When Steve Jobs spoke about craftsmanship, he emphasized focus, saying that innovation is about saying no to 1,000 things. Flow is not accidental. It is disciplined presence. And it is available to all of us, not just athletes, artists, or CEOs. It is available to the nurse caring for a patient, to the parent reading a bedtime story, to the student solving a problem, to the entrepreneur building something from nothing. The conditions for flow research shows that flow emerges under certain conditions. 1, a clear goal. 2, immediate feedback. 3, a challenge that matches your skill. 4, undivided attention. Notice something. None of these require fame. None require wealth. All require presence. If the challenge is too easy, we feel boredom. If it is too hard, we feel anxiety. But when challenge meets skill and attention meets intention, we enter that narrow corridor where growth lives. This is where mastery is built. And mastery, true mastery, requires depth, not distraction. Mindfulness in a high-pressure culture. Some people fear that mindfulness will make them passive, that slowing down means falling behind. But consider this, the sharpest blade is the one that is maintained. Elite military units train situational awareness. Surgeons pause before incisions. Pilots rely on checklists not because they are weak, but because focus saves lives. Mindfulness is not softness, it is strength under control. It allows you to respond rather than react. In a divided society, this matters deeply. When we pause before speaking, we prevent harm. When we listen fully, we build bridges. When we observe our own anger before acting on it, we protect our relationships. Mindfulness is not just personal development. It is civic responsibility. Flow as joy. Beyond productivity, flow offers something even more precious, joy. Not shallow entertainment, not quick dopamine hits, but deep satisfaction. Have you ever worked on something so absorbing that you forgot your worries? That feeling is not escape. It is alignment. In flow, who you are and what you are doing become one. That is why artists continue creating even when no one is watching. That is why entrepreneurs persist through setbacks. That is why athletes train before dawn. Flow is intrinsically rewarding. And here's the paradox. When we chase rewards directly, likes, applause, money, we often lose flow. But when we commit to the process with mindful attention, rewards tend to follow the practice. So how do we cultivate mindfulness and flow in everyday American life? It begins simply. Start your day without your phone for the first 10 minutes. Breathe deeply before entering a meeting. Single task instead of multitasking. Set clear goals for one meaningful block of work. Create boundaries around distraction. Protect your attention as fiercely as you protect your income, because attention shapes destiny. Build rituals that invite flow. Work in focused intervals. Remove digital interruptions. Choose challenges that stretch you. Reflect afterward on what worked. And most importantly, reconnect your effort to purpose. Flow is strongest when what you do matters to you. Resilience through presence. We live in uncertain times. Economic shifts, political tensions, rapid technological change. Mindfulness does not eliminate uncertainty, but it anchors us within it. When we focus on what we can control, our effort, our attention, our response, we regain agency. Flow then becomes more than performance. It becomes resilience. Because when you are fully engaged in meaningful action, fear loses its grip. America does not need more noise. It needs depth. Depth in conversation, depth in craftsmanship, depth in leadership, depth in character. Mindfulness gives us depth of awareness. Flow gives us depth of engagement. Together, they transform ordinary effort into extraordinary impact. Imagine classrooms where students are truly present, workplaces where meetings are intentional, families where conversations are undistracted, communities where listening replaces shouting. This is not fantasy. It is the natural result of collective attention. Closing, let me leave you with this. Your life is not measured in years alone. It is measured in moments you truly inhabit, the moments you were present, the moments you were immersed, the moments you gave your full self to something meaningful. Mindfulness is the gateway. Flow is the experience. Purpose is the compass. In a world competing for your attention, choose to own it. In a culture obsessed with speed, choose depth. In a distracted age, dare to be fully alive. And when you do, when you cultivate mindfulness and step into flow, you will discover something remarkable. You are not behind. You are not overwhelmed. You are not fragmented. You are here. And here, fully here, is where greatness begins. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to return to something simple, something so simple that we often overlook it. You have one life, not a rehearsal, not a draft, not a preview. One life. And that life is not lived in the past. It is not lived in the future. It is lived in moments, breathing, unfolding, fragile moments. Mindfulness teaches us to enter those moments. Flow teaches us to disappear into them. When we are mindful, we reclaim our attention from the noise of the world. When we enter flow, we channel that attention into meaningful action. Together, they create a powerful cycle. Presence fuels performance. Performance fuels purpose. Purpose deepens presence. Imagine what could change if we embraced this fully. Imagine workplaces where deep work replaces constant distraction. Imagine classrooms where curiosity is protected from digital overload. Imagine homes where conversations are not interrupted by glowing screens. Imagine leaders who respond with clarity instead of reacting with impulse. This is not idealism. It is discipline. Mindfulness requires courage, the courage to pause in a culture that glorifies speed. Flow requires commitment, the commitment to mastery in a culture that craves instant results. But the reward is immense. When you live mindfully, you experience more peace. When you work in flow, you achieve more excellence. When you combine the two, you experience something rare and powerful: wholeness. No fragmentation, no constant inner tug of war, no sense of being everywhere except where you are. Just clarity, engagement, alignment. And here is the most beautiful truth of all. You do not need permission to begin. You do not need a retreat in the mountains. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need fewer responsibilities. You need one breath, one moment of deliberate awareness, one decision to focus fully on what matters most. Great transformations rarely begin with dramatic gestures. They begin with subtle shifts: a pause before speaking, a boundary around your time, a commitment to single task, a willingness to feel fully instead of numbing constantly. Over time, those small acts of attention reshape your mind. They reshape your habits. They reshape your impact. And eventually, they reshape your life. So as you leave tonight, I do not ask you to add more to your schedule. I ask you to subtract distraction. I do not ask you to chase more achievements. I ask you to deepen your experience of the ones you pursue. I do not ask you to become someone new. I ask you to become fully present as the person you already are, because within you is an extraordinary capacity for focus, for creativity, for resilience, for meaningful contribution. Mindfulness unlocks it. Flow amplifies it. And when you step into both, you do not just perform better, you live better. May you protect your attention. May you pursue worthy challenges. May you find yourself fully immersed in work that stretches your abilities and nourishes your spirit. May you build a life not measured only by accomplishments, but by depth, clarity, and presence. And when the noise of the world grows loud, as it inevitably will, may you remember, you can return to this moment. You can reclaim your focus. You can choose awareness. And in that choice, again and again, you will find not only productivity, but peace. Not only success, but significance. Not only motion, but meaning. Thank you.